Hello everybody and welcome to the Cyclical Investors Club YouTube channel. My name is Corey Kramer. Today we're going to be taking a look at Super Microcomputer. I've had a couple requests for this one recently after its a big decline. And so I thought I'd share some thoughts on the stock with everyone and just a couple general principles that I try to use that can maybe keep you out of trouble with stocks like this. As always, this is not individual investing advice. This is just how I analyze stocks. So I have actually covered Supermicro before last February. I had a request over on Patreon for it. At the time, Supermicro wasn't in the S&P 500, so I only posted the video over there. If you join at the $5 tier a month level, you can request stocks analysis that are not in the S&P 500, and I post those over there, so that's what I did. And so I want to go back in time a little bit and just review a little bit of what I had to say during the Patreon video. So I'm going to move my new face over to the side here, and we'll let old Corey do a little bit of talking here. Turn up my computer. And I'll let you know, so this is the end of February 2024. And you can see the stock price had just rocketed up. And then not fall steeply off at some point. Have like a slower decline of earnings growth. If you think they can do that, then this price might be okay to pay. This is not something that I do for cyclical stocks though. Because I always try to watch the downside first, because it could fall 90%. Okay, it's no joke. If earnings went back to 2020 levels at some point, $2 a share instead of $21 a share, that's a 90% drop in earnings per share. Now I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you have to understand that it could happen. It's not unreasonable, and maybe it doesn't happen this year. Maybe it happens in 2 years. And maybe earnings don't fall to $2, but they go from this near $40 that people think down to $12, which is what they earned last year, right? That will be enough to crater that stock probably 80%. So it's important to keep that risk in mind. And in today's market, I mean, it could do it over, not 80% probably overnight, but it could do 20% overnight or 30%. I mean, you're not going to really be able to predict the top, and even the stop loss would be tough to really try to do. So that's kind of how I would frame it. Okay, so I like it when I go back in time and I sound smart and I don't sound stupid. Now, I was referencing specifically the potential cyclicality that can come, or the bust that can come after a boom that was caused by the AI boom. Now, what happened right after I made that video was the S&P 500 came out and announced that they were going to add Super Microcomputer to the S&P 500 index, which in my mind is totally crazy. They basically took a bunch of passive index investors' money and they lit it on fire and just flushed it down the toilet because they literally have no... I made a video on this already. It's called The Heavy Price of Index Investing. I just made it like last month. So you can go check that out if you want to know some of my feelings on this and why. This is exactly the reason why, if you have a choice, you should learn how to actually invest and not just rely on these index committees to pick and choose stocks that are going to get included. They literally took tens of billions of dollars and it's now gone. Now, they couldn't have known that there were going to be accounting issues. So a little bit later, now the stock had already started falling because all the traders and everybody and anybody that knows anything about probabilities and what's probably going to happen in the future sold this stock, and they just left it in the retail investors' hands that own these index funds. But then we got to the point where Hindenburg had a short report out where, you know, they talked about accounting irregularities and things like that. And that's what really sent the stock down like a whole another level. And that was in, let's see here, the end of August is when the short report came out. So, and then just last month, or this month at the end of a couple days ago, their accountant resigned because, um, well, basically because they want to protect their reputation and they probably refuse to like do bad accounting, we'll say nicely. But in the meantime, since this got added to the S&P 500, it's down. It's actually down more today. This doesn't have today's drop. It's down almost 80%. So, and chances are these earnings are fake. Like they're probably, we don't know what they're really going to be, I don't think. They delayed their filings. It's just garbage. So I would say not only did I think it probably wasn't a good investment back in February, right about there when I talked about it last time, now I really think it's not. So, as a general rule, and this has happened to me, it's even happening right now with one of the stocks that I own. If there's unless it's just a totally ridiculous claim. I mean, sometimes these short sellers can just be dumb. But if there's any legitimacy to any sort of accounting problem, the best across the board advice is just to immediately sell and do not try to buy any dips. Now I have a situation currently with a stock. I have a growth strategy that is a buy and hold strategy by design, and specifically like that so you don't try to trade any kind of small things that happen in the market. And this was one of the first stocks I bought with the strategy when I just first started it in 2021. So I've had it like 3 years. And basically they had something similar happen, except for they fired the CEO, immediately replaced him, and there wasn't any sign ahead of time that anything was going to happen. So overnight, the stock just dropped like 30%. I think it was already down somewhat. So immediately I was already down like 50%. And I thought, well, they fired the CEO, they'll get this straightened out. Maybe they'll, I don't know what the company's worth at that point, but it was a buy and hold strategy. And I said, well, we'll just see if they can sell this business or something and we'll get whatever we get from it. And I think it's down even a little bit more since then. So I probably should have just sold it, like my overall general rule is. I've had this happen with at least 2 others. I mean, and every time, one time it was like a short report, I think, that came out, or I forget exactly what, but I immediately sold. It was the best thing ever. I took like a 30% loss, but the stock basically went bankrupt after that. So you can just, I would stay away. And if it turns out to be one of these things where somehow they figure out a way to work things out, and they come back, that's fine. 9 times out of 10, that's not going to be what happens. You just aren't going to want to mess with it. And there's no way to predict it, right? There's no way to even put real true odds on it because you don't know what's happening. So that's kind of my feeling. Whenever I can't trust these numbers that a lot of my analysis is based on, it doesn't make sense for me to keep using a strategy, holding a stock, potentially buying a stock, when I don't know if those numbers are real or not. Usually this tends to happen within emerging market stocks a little bit more, but definitely not exclusive to that. So my suggestion on Super Micro is to get as far away from the stock as you absolutely can. If you have losses, just take them. And maybe you can offset some gain somewhere else you had for this year for taxes or something. I don't know. But the problem is when you have these setups like this where a stock is just rocketing super high. These guys at least had pretend earnings. Some of them don't. The incentives get all in the wrong place, and the incentive then becomes to take advantage of individual investors who maybe get excited about it. They're reading about it on Twitter X or whatever, and so it's good to know what I don't want to say scams, but I mean half of them are like scams. It's just good to know what they look like what the dynamics look like when you look at it, and what the odds are that that's really going to come true in the end. And every now and then one of them will be real, and do great, but over time it's usually best just to have a rule. I'm not going to jump in on a stock when it goes up. How much did this go up? when it goes up 300% in 2 months. I cannot believe they added this to the S&P 500. It blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind. So yeah, sorry to all the people saving for retirement. You just lost a bunch of money because of these guys that run the index. But this is why you need to learn a little bit about investing in individual stocks so you don't get taken advantage of. Because there's dozens of other stocks like this that aren't frauds, but they will produce bad returns. And I made a whole video on it. It's called The Heavy Price of Index Investing. It just came out last month. If you want to go watch that, I show you some of the statistics that I put together. It's pretty eye-opening. People are basically front-running, anticipating this SP inclusion, and traders are making tons of money off people who have no idea what they're investing in, buying these index funds into 401ks and stuff. So that's my preachiness for the day. And if you found this useful, usually I just do regular stock analysis. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. I'll see everybody later.